Hi, this is Zena Harris.
And I'm Mark Rabin.
Welcome to the tie-in. Hi, Mark. Like we finally found time in our calendar to touch base after South by Southwest.
Yeah, hey Zena, I needed a decompression week after that. I don't even know what it is. It's like a conference, but it's not. But it's like five conferences or 10 conferences or a
I don't
show. Is
know.
like music? Is it a comedy festival? Like what is
There's
it?
a lot going on all at one time. There's
Yeah,
definitely like this South by Southwest vortex of, activity and just so much to
yeah.
do.
But it's like a
So
big. But it's like it's a. Is it a party? But is it a networking event? Is it right? I was
films,
like,
go to the film
what is this
festival.
thing? Yeah,
It's all over the place.
yeah.
Activations,
It's so
like,
weird.
yeah, all the side events. So our first time there,
Yeah.
and I think we took, you know, jumped into that vortex as best we could. Like we took in a lot of, I
Hmm.
mean, I know for me, like I went to four parties in one night, which I can't believe, like that baffles me. So,
Yeah, and it was great. I actually really loved riding around on the scooters.
I mean, you were like Scooter Man.
That
Yeah.
was that was the best. Sober, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just such a wild fest. I mean, even just thinking back to sort of the highlights, I feel like a lot of the conference stuff that we did was earlier on, right? So kind of like
Yeah.
there was the front loading of more of the technical conferencing and that stuff, and then it kind of transitioned to more of the music stuff. But
Hmm.
lots of stuff throughout. Got to see some of our friends
Yeah.
of all different types.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm trying to think back to in chronological order, but I mean, we started off with our podcasting, right? So we front loaded that. How many did we do again?
Seven interviews, seven
Yeah,
tie-in podcast interviews. Like
yeah,
we did not think we were gonna. We had I think four like officially booked, and then a fifth one slipped in, and then another and another. Like so that was pretty cool to be able
yeah,
to do
and
that.
and we front loaded them, and we were at Red ThreadX
Hmm.
house, which was super cool. Thanks, shout out to Red ThreadX folks, because yeah, we I don't know what we would have done without that because obviously, I don't know if we said to our viewers here, but the Canada House canceled their house, and that's where
Uh-huh.
we were going to do our interviews.
Right.
Number of reasons, of course, we are not really necessarily privy to, but they definitely canceled and left a lot of folks out in lurch. We made it happen.
We made it
And shout
happen.
out to Colin, our producer,
Uh-huh.
who also stepped up and just helped make it wrangle this thing and made it happen. And we were on the 29th floor of the Meta building for our interview. I mean, that's super cool.
It was really cool to have that space and have that like instant collaboration with Red FedEx House. Like
Hmm.
they really were generous and
Yeah.
open. And it's just kind of when you encounter that and that vibe and like, yeah, come on, like
Hmm.
it's like a breath of fresh air, right? So I, noticed that and they're just, so really
Yeah.
appreciate
I,
that
I felt like all of
hospitality.
South by was like that.
Yeah,
Um,
honestly, like the people in Austin, like everybody, it
yeah.
was like that. They were
Yeah.
just, everybody's willing and open, like, yeah, let's talk, So
So
that
we
was
did that.
fun.
We interviewed some incredible people, not just film, and we have, the
I
futurists and
know.
demographers and folks doing stuff in the Arctic and comic books and film too. I mean, we met up with Heather and Mindy
Oh, yeah.
from Shineco, and we went on a tour of Austin studios and got
Mm-hmm.
the behind the scenes. So I
I
mean,
mean,
it just goes on and on.
yeah, yeah. And then, and not to mention then the like the sessions at South by Southwest that we did attend during the
Hmm.
day. And then fun little thing for me, I got to see Brene Brown, which was
Hmm.
like one of my fun moments.
Yeah, I
So
saw
I'm a
Peter
big,
Attia.
Yeah,
as
just like
well.
people we're fans of, and then just like another thing was going to the Rivian Roadhouse, the electric
Hmm.
Roadhouse,
Yeah,
and
put on by
seeing
solar punks,
solar punks and
coordinated and organized that.
totally.
Kudos to those cats
I
for
know.
making that happen.
It's
And I saw
great.
St. Vincent play, and yeah, there's a bunch of cool stuff going on at Rivian. Rivian was a key sponsor as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like you could see Rivian everywhere. Like there was even in the middle of downtown, there was like huge piles of dirt with Rivian's off-roading.
Oh yeah. That was a cool activation. They took this empty lot and it wasn't actually dirt. I heard them say it's like recycled concrete. So they're gonna
Oh.
actually reuse it afterwards to I don't know, fill in potholes or something. But so yeah, these Rivians were going over these big mounds and people could get a ride in them and see how cool they were. Anyway, it's just like big activations and streets are blocked
Yeah.
off and it's just a fun fest. So good
Yeah.
stuff. Good
Um,
stuff.
I'm trying to think of some other highlights. And we got to see our friends Overdrive, and then Neil and the
Yeah.
team powered the Willie Nelson's Luck reunion out at his ranch, which is
Hmm.
like actually an old film set, like a country west film set as well.
Yeah.
And that was super cool. So for those of you who've been following, we've interviewed Neil twice, and Overdrive is doing really cool stuff. And they're doing like full distributed, decentralized powering of all types of different stages and activations and vendor booths and using batteries and solar, but also grid power. And yeah, really, really cool. And we got behind the scenes and
Hmm.
did some documentary shooting footage. So hopefully that will come out in the
Yeah,
next little bit as well.
we'll see what we can do with it. Because yeah, I mean, and shout out to Reverb too, because
Yeah.
they were there. I think great collaboration. They've been working with the Luck Reunion as well over the years. They put together uh, you know, some of the sustainability efforts in and around that. So, one of the things I really like too, of course, seeing the batteries and hearing about how,
Mhm.
they were powering something like, I don't know, there were like 6 or 8 stages in various, kind of different parts of the complex, if you will, the ranch. And each stage, each outdoor stage had a sign that said, this stage is decarbonized. And that's just a great kind of little, passive way to engage with the audience. And like, yeah, even out here, we're doing it, And then of course you
Mhm.
see the solar panels, as you walk in. So it was well done. Well done.
Yeah, I love that part of, I mean, the Texas that we engaged with at South by was that progressive tech, solar, renewable power, Willie's in on it. Everybody's going for it. So it's easy to get pull into that cocoon. And obviously the with the new film production credits coming online, hopefully that gets passed. We spoke as well with Kevin Barr from Hill Country
Hmm.
Studios, and they're building a state-of-the-art film studio. So there's going to be a lot of momentum and movement on the production, film, games
Hmm.
side of things, that I think is just absolutely wonderful. And in Texas, they just get shit done.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, don't discount those Texans. I mean, everything's big, everything's bold. Like, I mean, there's a lot of pride. Like, let's do it, right? So,
Yeah, big
yeah.
portions of barbecued
Oh
meat.
man, right? Like, gosh. It's good. It's good stuff.
Totally. Like a
Good stuff.
vegetable detox here.
I know. And Mark and I sitting at a picnic table eating our eating our best food. Oh man. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Good time overall. I mean, it's just some amazing people and just trying to follow up. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just like this is our first year too. So we made some missteps in programming and just kind of planning and figuring out what was going on and what to hit up. And
yeah.
so yeah, hopefully next time we'll have a better a better read on exactly what to do and where to go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all just now trying to navigate it, right? And this was our first time, so can't get to everything. And sometimes we're like, oh, I didn't realize this was happening, and oh, we should have done that. So there's all of that, lessons learned, and in scheduling and these sorts of things, and then how to navigate the app, and I mean, all sorts of things. What's
Mhm.
important to go to. So,
Oh,
um,
also, I think one that I almost forgot, we had an incredible dinner
yeah,
with the Becoming Denizen group.
yeah.
Jenny Stefanati is there's a podcast, an amazing podcast called
Mm,
becomingdenizen.com. And it's all about the regenerative future that we want. And yeah, everybody should listen to this podcast. It's about everything from regenerative economics, steward ownership,
hmm
new business models, new ways of engaging um, on the planet as humans today. And I absolutely love it. And we went to a dinner that was put on by one of the folks in the network.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just so cool to just talk about the future of yeah, I think we need to talk to have those tough conversations to and dialogue around how we're not going to take a huge crap on this planet, but figure out how to live in some form of harmony where everybody feels supported
hmm
and is engaged in it. And yeah, so that's check out Becoming Denizen podcast,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's BECOMINGDENIZEN.com, denizen.com. So check it out. It's
hmm
such a cool podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. And meeting people who've been guests on the podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, like I learned so much from your episode. Like, it's just
Yeah.
kind of that full circle moment. And really interesting people doing really interesting things. And it's so neat to be kind of uh, in groups like that where your mind is just like open to all the
Mhm.
possibilities out there. So,
I think
yeah.
we need to get Jenny on our podcast.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, let's see
Yeah,
if we can.
let's
See
do
if we can. Okay. All right. We got our work cut out for us.
it.
Follow-ups and, new, guests to book and all of this. So, I think we're going to do a South by Southwest playlist on our YouTube channel for all the interviews that we did there. So stay tuned for that. I know they're going to be released kind of over the next few weeks, but we'll capture them all in a playlist. So that'll be fun. And yeah, like great to hang out with you for
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever 10 days or that was fun. And
Yeah, I should also mention before we go is that we'll be in LA
yeah.
for LA Climate Week.
Yeah.
And so that'll be good. So if anybody's in LA, let me just look up what
The
Climate
7th,
Week, the exact
8th,
dates.
9th is when I'll be there. So,
Yeah,
but the event that we're doing is on the 8th at the
yeah.
Lacey Center, I think from 10 to 2:30. So check that out. Check
Yeah.
out LA Climate Week. There's a website. There's a ton of other events going on. If you're
Mhm.
interested in gardening, I think there's a thing there. You know what I mean? Like all
Yeah.
different topics. But we are doing the creative industries opportunity space, pulling in lots of folks to do several sessions on the 8th that day.
Yeah.
So
And I'll
come
be
if you're,
moderating a panel as well.
hmm
And I'll be in LA hanging out for a couple weeks from like the beginning of April to
Okay.
mid-April. If anybody's out there, let me know,
Yeah.
reach out to me. I'll also be attending the Music and Sustainability Alliance Summit
Oh,
that
yeah.
has been shifted due to the wildfires to April 15th.
hmm
And I believe that there's still tickets available for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Lots of
Hit
stuff
us
going
up.
on.
Come say hi. That'll be fun. It'll be fun. All right. Very good. Well, let's wrap out and
Enjoy the podcast.
enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome to the Tie-In. We are on location in Austin, Texas, at the Red ThreadX house on the fringe of South by Southwest. There's a lot going on. We're talking to some fabulous people who are participating in the festival, and today we've got Nathalie van Sasse van Ysselt. Did I say that correctly?
Just about, yeah. Van Sasse van Ysselt. It's a tough one. It's okay.
Gosh,
it's okay.
Okay, you got it. Okay.
Amazing attempt. Thank you.
Okay. So you are a creative tech executive and strategic consultant, is what I understand, at the nexus of brand, culture, tech, entertainment, and immersive experiences. Wow.
I know, it's a mouthful.
It's a lot. It's like super cool. Definitely a lot of crossover with stuff that we've been doing. So tell us about it.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. South by Southwest is just an awesome opportunity to link up with, folks like yourselves and other people in the industry. So love the opportunity. I've been spending my whole career really focused on bringing new entertainment formats to life. So emerging technologies kind of always involved, but really at the core, I'm a storyteller, and how do we tell these stories in space?
Yeah.
So whether that's with existing IP or creating new IP, it always involves architecture, the spatial experience design, and then bringing these kind of immersive stories to life. So an intersection of all those things.
Yeah. I love it. And so when you are bringing these visionary concepts to life, what innovative trends are you seeing now, and where are you going in the future?
Great question. I mean, I think one thing we've realized is that people still want to come together in real life. Doesn't mean that there's not a digital layering or any kind of add-on like that, but bringing people together in real life has always been the core. And I'm seeing a lot of trends towards, customization, developing a story in real time, which is super exciting. I think as an immersive designer, that's essentially where you always want to go, is put the visitor or the guest or the player at the center of the story. I think with the development of AI and other technology, we're getting closer and closer to being able to really craft a world in real time around you.
That's amazing. And you're responsible or have been part of some of the largest activations in the world so far. Can you speak a little bit about some of your projects that you've been working on the past little while?
Sure. I've done a mix. I was at Moment Factory for some years where we did really large projection mapping programmable spaces. And then I was also a big part of launching Sphere in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I worked there for 4 years and launched the venue in 2023. Did the Formula One Grand Prix and the Super Bowl there. So yeah, they're overall new formats. Like, how do we bring new venues, entertainment to life? So it's always an interesting challenge to kind of innovate on the storytelling and on the tech side at the same time. But super exciting. I like those really juicy challenges.
Yeah. So can you help us understand how you, I guess, start these projects? What does it look like to kind of, what's the genesis, and what is the sort of planning and like the process look like? Because we see it from, as the public from the outside, but what does it really look like to get in there and get creative and start the process?
Sure. It's quite a lengthy process. I mean, these projects generally take years.
Wow, okay.
For sure, especially if you're building a building and whatnot.
Okay.
So I'd say, like I said, at the core is kind of always the story, and I think that's what actually, it's real easy to think, we could do it all these different ways, we can include all this amazing tech, but actually that red thread, the through line, is so important.
Yeah.
And I think really diving deep into what are we trying to say, what are we trying to make our audiences feel, what's the real takeaway, and how do we apply that storytelling? It's almost like it's world building.
Yeah.
It's almost how, like, when you go to a theme park, everything's of a cohesive,
right.
a cohesive world. Yeah. So thematic, and I think that's really the essence and the core of what you should start with.
Okay.
And then of course there's architecture, master planning, partner, years and years of development work to get to the final product.
Yeah. Well, with projects like Sphere in Las Vegas, for example, how do you, like, in that, like, what, like, organizing the story and kind of thinking through the story and the vision of what you want that to look like, and then what you want people to feel. How do you kind of connect those two pieces and then display it in the tech, take that technology and do that? I'm curious, like, when folks enter and participate in the environment, like how do those angles all come together? I'm just curious.
Sure. Well, I guess there's a methodology that I apply to all projects, which is, I guess, the story's at the core, and then you kind of map out, what's the threshold? Like, what do you need to experience going into the door, or whether it's Sphere or another project? How do we say, okay, the rules are different, you're engaging in a different environment, this is a new reality, and that can be something really, it could be greeted by a character, it could be a very physical, spatial design that's, I don't know, immersive and blowing your mind, and you're really in a different world, and I think how we take you through the threshold, and then how the story unfolds as you go through this map. I mean, I'm going like this because you're moving around in physical space. We use I use generally different tools like an experience map or lots of different like experience design tools to really structure the process. And then there's a lot of those, like, where do we have surprise and delight? Where do we have moments of wonder? Where are there moments where you're super interactive and you're really involved? And then there's some moments where you can sit back and just enjoy the wow or whatnot. So taking you on like those ups and downs of the emotional curve and mapping it out to the space.
And so behind the scenes, so Zena and I come from more the production side of things. How involved is the back end production part of it? And also in terms of sustainability, you're obviously still creating, you don't want to be pumping in toxic chemicals in perfume into a place, or you don't want to have a bunch of waste behind the scenes. How is that behind the scenes sustainability reaching over into the actual production itself?
Well, I think, look, creative's just as important as the production and the operations. I think as a customer, you want to come in and make sure it's super fluid and you remember the operations, you remember that seamlessness. And when it comes to sustainability, I think there's definitely anything from like recycling materials, or as the tech is evolving, it's getting more efficient, especially if you're building a longer term project like a theme park or a venue. There's a lot more you can do to make sure sustainability is being thought of in a better way. I think there's still work we can be doing, especially on maybe one-off events or less permanent things. So I think everyone's trying. I think it's still hard to always find the right way, but recyclable materials, reusing materials, hopefully more efficient technology, I think are some of the ways we can make that more sustainable.
No, I agree. I feel like we've been working in this space for like 10 years, and with the evolution of technology and new materials and all this, I feel like we're still just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Absolutely.
Behind the scenes. And then, interesting creative elements and immersive experiences and virtual reality and all of this stuff is challenging us in different ways. Do you feel that too as your experience has evolved kind of in your work?
For sure. I mean, I think a lot of things are in development always, and right now there's a lot of I guess I see the main trend going towards almost like mixed use real estate program development projects, and where high volumes of people, there's entertainment, there's hospitality, there's retail. All of that I think has opportunities to focus on, okay, how do we actually start taking over placemaking in the urban environment and make that more sustainable, make that also more human-centered. I think human-centric design is important, bringing people together in ways that feels organic, and I guess where the tech and then that placemaking comes together is where I think the future of immersive will be going, or one avenue at least, and there's opportunity for us to be, I think, sustainable in that context.
And it's also just taking over, you can reform and reimagine derelict spaces or underused places. I mean, that's what's exciting. And also, I mean, I think we're heading into a time where it really is about the experiential, right? I mean, that's what we're looking for right now. We're tired of sitting in front of a computer. I mean, COVID taught us that. I mean, that was all right. But yeah, like what is this general sentiment that you're hearing from folks out there?
Sure. I mean, if you look at, let's say, the experience economy, I think it's definitely still thriving and booming. You can see it anywhere from, more stage-based, proscenium-focused entertainment, but also there's a lot of new theme park, like I said, mixed use developments happening around the world, the Middle East, Asia, also in the US. Big mega projects, really. And I think people are, even like the travel experience, people want to, experience has value, right?
Yeah.
And agreed, it's because it's more active, it's catered to you, like I said, that customization aspect, and people can share it with others, and that's what's so enjoyable. And I think we'll see that more and more of these IPs that you see on the screen are also translating to the physical space, and that's so exciting. So you've got this really strong storytelling, but all around you in 3D, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So just sort of the question here is like, sometimes things don't go as planned, right? In all this planning, and so, what have been some of your typical challenging points, or do you have an experience where there was sort of like a colossal challenge that you had to figure out on the fly?
I feel like when you're doing something for the first time, when it's involving tech and creative on such a large scale, it's always you're taking a lot of really calculated risk, and you're working with a lot of experts to avoid anything bad happening.
Yeah.
So there's like plan A, B, C, D, E, whatever. I do think that optimization on site, where we really like fine-tune transitions, how you move from one space to the next, how we make sure the flow's right, the pacing's right. Those are things that you really optimize. I don't want to say only last minute. That's not true, but there's some optimization happening there. And I think in this industry, entertainment and on-site, being able to be resilient to changes and pivots and learnings is just essential. So you can always adapt. Being adaptable is kind of key to making sure it's the best experience.
Yeah. We hear a lot about problem solving being
Absolutely.
kind of the core of it, and because just as you say, there's we're in interesting, new, innovative, creative spaces, and we got to problem solve because maybe we haven't done that thing before. So
exactly.
From project to project, are you constantly pushing the boundaries on that, or?
I would say so.
Yeah?
There's a lot of you're like, oh yes, this is a challenge that I haven't had yet. But yes, obviously it's always teamwork. That's what I personally like about it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's it's really interesting to solve big problems. Of this scale, I'd say.
Then introduce them to the public. You never know what you're going to get when when lots of different types of people are interacting with your work. Is that interesting, or have you come up against some fun challenges in that way?
I mean, absolutely. I'd say when you're trying to target global audiences, obviously there's a lot of brand positioning and strategy and also evaluation of what our target groups want, but culture moves really fast, right? So you can do all of that. I think there's a lot of, I like to say it's a big part of strategy and research, and a lot of strategy, but then also there's this kind of creative intuition that comes in the creative development process, and I think it's that mix that really hopefully gets it, and then you have to sustain it, right? So I think staying up to date with the trends and the culture and having dialogue with your audiences and really maximizing how that rolls out keeps people involved and keeps you as a creator or as an operator, as an owner of an experience constantly evolving.
I'm curious, you mentioned culture. Do you feel like you are influencing culture in your work, or does culture influence your work? How or maybe it's both?
I'd say it's both. I think it's kind of like a reciprocal loop.
Okay.
I say it's a reciprocal loop, and I think it's. I like to think of it, maybe when you start, like when you're launching a project, who do we want to work with? Who do we want to associate with? Artists, musicians, athletes, brands. Kind of build out this like ecosystem, and then once that's launched, then it's super important to listen, right? Listen to how people are engaging with your experience, or there's a lot of stuff happening online, and if you dig deep, you're discovering microcultures and new things, and that's really what you want. You want that engagement, and then being able to use that, leverage it, and continue it is really where you get that longevity.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there watching folks interact with your activations.
Absolutely,
You're
absolutely, yeah.
behind the scenes, behind the mirror.
Not as, I mean, it depends on the installation.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can be tracking data if you want to, but also like on social,
Right.
Understanding where reposts are coming. Sometimes there's fan groups that people create on their own. It goes deep, honestly. It could be a Discord or a Reddit channel.
Right.
It's just staying in tune with how people are working with it. And I think that's why including artists is so important, because they'll usually have a different lens. And I think artists always have that really nice affinity of tapping into culture in a very different way, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what comes to mind again is these like people are going to huge festivals as well, like Burning Man, for example, being an immersive event, or just these like 40,000, 100,000 person events. But again, Burning Man comes to mind, right? Because it's like one huge immersive experience, and so is South by Southwest in many ways. Are you looking forward to any activations here to explore? I know there's a lot of them. Anything we should be checking out?
Well, I'm definitely going to go to the XR floor at the Fairmont. There's a lot of friends and acquaintances that I know that are showing there. That's always been a really interesting platform. I'm hosting 2 panels with some people today. So also at the Fairmont, we've got one on immersive dreams, which is really with a kind of discussing the creative, tech, and business trifecta, which is so important. And then another one right after, so 2 to 4 p.m., reinventing the way we share, which is really talking a lot about what I've been speaking to, architecture, placemaking, and how do we involve large-scale audiences.
Yeah.
So I think that whole realm, the immersive track at South by Southwest is so strong. There's a lot to see. I'm excited to kind of meet people and, continue the conversation, so.
No, I love it. And so you mentioned that you spent quite a bit of time at the Sphere, working on the Sphere. What was your role at that, making that happen?
Sure. So I started, I was there for 4 years. So a big part of it was the beginning kind of vision setting and innovation work. And then I was leading the creative team. So I was the VP of design and creative services. So we were doing brand building. A big part of my remit was doing the outside the exosphere, which on the one hand was an art canvas, a brand platform, but also a revenue generating platform. So doing brand activations. I curated some artists to kind of bring that to life, like Rafiq Anadol, who is a pretty renowned AI artist. So how do we get, once again, like artists to come in and explore a canvas? And I think that applies to all the projects, right? Like, let's have people play with the tech, test it, break it, find a new feature. I think that's really the essence of all of this.
I love that.
This work, yeah.
And it's such a, I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, it got emotional, right? I mean, it's just like, it's this incredible, immersive, the exoskeleton or whatever you called it. I mean, it's an incredible thing in the community, right?
Exactly. And I think one thing that we saw that was super successful was like the emoji, like characterizing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once again, that's what you see. Like, this is one example, but with all projects, okay, what's working, and the social reaction's really clear, and how people create fan groups or whatnot, and that applies to all projects, I think. Characterization, that intimacy between such a large project or a venue or event. How do you make it personal for people? And I think that's a nice example of that.
Yeah, it really is. Oh man.
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm curious because we work in film and TV, and I kind of mentioned earlier, like, virtual production or virtual reality, these sorts of things. How does your work intersect with like the film and TV world? Does it at all, or?
I think I'd say like the biggest challenge with, or let's say this, I think the interesting part with film and TV is that the storytelling's so strong.
Yeah.
There's been years and years of really figuring out how do we tell narratives, how do we develop characters, how do we have dialogue, and I like to look at that to help apply some of those like learnings and rules to telling stories in space, because that's usually people can really get fall in love with stories, whether it's episodic or a film brand, and I think that's really strong. So I feel like there's a lot to learn from that on how we turn that into experiences, but just giving people more agency to interact with that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And this sort of idea of immersion in the virtual reality space is like so like just evolving constant. Like it's so interesting, and I feel like there could be a lot of crossover there where you're going from different spaces. Connecting all of that. So I guess maybe something to watch in the future of like how these things all connect.
Absolutely, and I think we'll see more and more of that.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a big question that we circle around a lot is like developing IP. It's hard, right? It's hard to get it right. It's hard to find an amazing story that everyone falls in love with. Not everyone writes Harry Potter every day, right? Or you know, other amazing stories. So there's a lot to learn and to evolve, and I think developing stories in 360 where you have a lot of agency, there's a lot to learn from video games. You know, people are doing it, but tying it together in the physical space is still kind of a new medium.
Yeah.
We're still learning rules. We're still exploring things. The technology is evolving to making more things possible. So it's just, you know, it's moving fast.
Yeah.
I mean, LED. I mean, that's the whole thing. You know, I just went to see a concert on Thursday, and I was just like, this would just be a couple of DJs on a stage if it weren't for this entire amazing production. And I kind of feel the Sphere has that, but also, I mean, these other immersive things. I mean, it's like we're able to leverage all these new technologies, as you mentioned, to do that. Back to sort of an earlier question, I mean, are you seeing any sort of really far out technologies starting to be integrated into this, or any sort of something that's like we should be looking out for in terms of innovation?
I think, well, like I said, the AI, like this real-time aspect, you know, the tech, like the computers, the GPUs and everything, it was hard to always do that. So there was still a little bit of like a linear quality. Like there's still generative content and stuff absolutely happening now, but like real time, like in high res, high scale. I think also multi-sensory. So, you know, immersive audio is already you know there, but scent, temperature. I think those things will start evolving really quickly, where you'll have a far more immersive experience. That's really what immersion is, right? It's when it feels real.
The six senses.
Yeah.
And then we'll just have it just tied into our brain.
I know, just wired.
Yeah, I think the big headset is that's a bit of a tech development issue. That'll start disappearing. I think.
So? Okay.
Now, this scale, it's going to start feeling, I think, more comfortable, and you know, we want to be able to share with other people. I think that's still the crux of the thing. But
that's true.
There's so many companies so deeply involved in it that's a matter of time. I find, you know, there's got to be different. You always just have to keep on user testing technology and evolving the product. Yeah,
that's a good point.
I love it.
Can you tell us what you're working on now? Like, is there a big project you're working on now? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of big things. I can't speak to that quite yet, but there's a couple of big projects that are breaking ground and that are starting to evolve. So, yes. So I'm definitely kind of working on some big things that I can't discuss. And then there's some more like events or strategy that I'm doing with like a lot of my clients. So I still, you know, do hands-on creative direction for brands and immersive. And work with different studios across the world to kind of, the bigger ones take more time, and the smaller ones you can do more consistently. So it's a mix of long-term and short-term projects.
Yeah. Okay. I want to dive into a question that we ask everyone. So I'd love to get your take on this. If you were to create a playbook of guiding principles in creative tech, I'll call it, what would be first on your list?
I would probably say that story aspect that I mentioned at the beginning. Yes, be really clear on the concept, on the through line, on the story. Everything falls into place after that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, like I said, methodology, and I can, you know, how do you break up scenes and plan it across the space? But actually, I always really admire Punch Drunk's work and their immersive theater. I thought they were groundbreaking in what they've been doing. And I met Felix Barnett, their art director, once, and he said, we always start with the stage. If it doesn't work on the stage, it won't work in the space.
Okay.
And I like that because he's saying we just pull it down to its essence first and make sure it works there. And then you can always, everything else is not, I don't want to say bells and whistles, but, and you know, Disney does it too, like really strong story, and then everything else evolves.
That's builds from there.
That's really the core of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, I mean, I think we're starting to see now the weak stories are not hitting as hard anymore. There was a moment there where we were wowed by graphics, CGI, and so on, but now it's really the story. I mean, you could see it at the Oscars. We can see it around the immersive. You know, it's people still want a good story.
Yeah, I mean, you have like. There was a lot of like wow factor immersive things happening, which is great. But then you see like from a business plan, it gets really you have the trend bubble, and then okay, you need to have repeat business. You need to have a content slate. It needs to evolve. Otherwise, like you get that one bubble and it doesn't sustain, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we saw a lot of that in the past 5-10 years. Like I said, it's a new medium, so people are learning, and like that wow of like large scale video is still really impressive, but it needs a real content strategy, and which comes from film, TV, a content slate, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You need pre-planning, like really diving into the creative development. It's all you need to do that with immersive spaces too.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, thank you, Nathalie. And
Thank
where
you.
where can our listeners find more information about you or any of your work?
Sure. So I have a website, nvsvy.com, which is the initials of my long name. Not every project's on there, but there's a good amount. And then following me on LinkedIn or Instagram, which is all connected there. I love going to events and conferences like this. I'm always kind of posting insider info from the scene. So great way to stay in touch. Thank you.
Great.
That's
thank you.
awesome. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Our producer is Colin Miller.